My PPT is visible, Amir?
Yes, it's visible.
Okay, thank you, thank you. Good evening, students.
Good evening, sir.
Okay, thank you. As usual, there is a reply. Who, may I know who is that? May I know who is responding to my good evening?
Good evening, sir.
Okay, thank you so much. Okay, and today also we are in the same unit discussing about knowledge organization. So, the last couple of classes we have been discussing about various components related to bibliographical formats, interchange formats, and all those metadata standards we are discussing. Today, we like to talk about a very basic, the core activity of any technical librarian. So, in foreign countries, we have got some people called cataloging librarian. We have got some people called metadata librarians. Okay, very specific. You see, the object of any library to see that the resources which are available in a library are utilized to the maximum extent by the users. Okay, that is the only motive why we do all these kinds of various kinds of activities. And that's the reason we have started classifying our library collection using a particular scheme of classification. So this classification is based on the subject or thought content of the resources what we have in the library, isn't it? You go to any library, you go to any track, and you can see the books are arranged according to the subjects, either based on column classification or DDC, UDC, all those things. So subject approach is one of the prominent approaches used by users of any library to retrieve and search for the required information in the information retrieval environment. The same way, when you are preparing a catalog entries, you try to provide various access points to users. Maybe title, maybe author, maybe subject, maybe series. You give different focus, different ideas. Today's class, I would like to talk about only one particular item called the class index entries or subject index entries. What you are preparing in your manual or in your automated library system, you are preparing subject entries to satisfy the subject approach of the readers, those who are coming to a library, isn't it? So how you are going to prepare the subject heading, that is the whole concept we are going to discuss today. Fine, good. So in this regard, we would be discussing about various indexing systems, assigned indexing system, derived indexing system, and a couple of slides on vocabulary control. Fine. Okay, what is indexing from the point of view of today's class? So here indexing means whatever books, whatever journals, whatever materials you receive in the library, you are going to prepare a catalog card in which a subject entry is going to be prepared to describe the thought content of the resource you are cataloging. What are the words, what are the subject headings you are going to use? Okay, so we have to represent the, you have to symbolize, conceptualize the thought content of the resource you are cataloging in the term of some subject headings. Okay, so preparation of these subject headings and arranging these subject headings in the alphabetical order, the process is called as indexing. Creation of subject headings and maintaining it is called indexing. Good. The indexing can be either assigned indexing or derived indexing. What is this assigned indexing, which is also called as assignment index or concept index? So very simple. So you have received a particular book in your hand. You are preparing a catalog card. You have to prepare a subject entry. You need subject headings. How to choose the subject headings? So maybe you know by seeing the title, by going through the abstract, or by seeing the table of contents, you might have grasped what would be the subject content of this particular material. But to represent it in an authorized way, you need to pick up some subject headings. You need to choose a couple of standard words that will help you to describe the thought content in a proper manner. So what you do, you don't prepare the subject headings on your own. You depend on the ready-made controlled vocabulary. Already people have prepared lot of subject headings. Those headings are available in the market. You can go and use it. Something like subject headings list or thesaurus or even classification schemes. Even if you don't have any other tool also, you just have colon classification or Dewey Decimal Classification in your hand. Whenever you receive a book, you can prepare subject entry, subject headings for that particular book by taking the captions, what is available in a classification scheme, because all the terms what are available in a classification scheme are controlled ones. So they have decided to use those particular terms to represent a concept. So whenever you are preparing a subject index entry for a particular resource, to choose the subject headings, you go to these kinds of ready-made available controlled vocabularies. From these ready-made list, you select some terms called descriptors, called access points, called preferred term. You call it by any name. You get some words, a couple of words or single word from these resources, and you are assigning these keywords, these selected words to the document for which you are preparing the subject index entry. Fine. That is why it is called as assigned indexing. So you are going to select the terms which are already available in the ready-made list. You select the list and you assign those terms, those subject headings, those keywords to describe a particular resource. This is called assigned indexing. This is also called as concept indexing or assignment indexing. Quite against to this, we got something called derived indexing, where the cataloger, the librarian, may not be select the terms, ready-made terms from the already available list. Instead, he will go and read the title, he will go and read the abstract, he will go and read the keywords given, he will, if required, even he will go through the contents. From those areas, he will pick up the words that will represent the thought content of the resources. So that kind of indexing is known as derived indexing. Maybe sometime after selecting some terms from the title or from the abstract or from the keywords, then those terms can be looked for in standardized list. For example, you have got a book, you see the title, you see the abstract, you decide 2 or 3 keywords. But before finalizing these keywords, you can go to any one subject heading list or thesaurus or classification scheme. You can find out the authorized term, exact term, correct term, controlled term. You can take from those ready-made lists, you can use it. Even that process is called as assigned indexing. Fine, good. So as I told you, assigned indexing is also called as concept indexing, because we are trying to analyze the concepts involved in the intellectual content of the book, and those contents are those concepts involved in a book are going to be expressed in terms of selective terms taken from some authorized list. Fine. That's what it's also called as concept indexing. So what are the examples? Library of Congress subject headings, Sears list of subject headings, thesaurus, the very, very popular and simple one is Roget's thesaurus. Of course, we have hundreds and hundreds of thesaurus which are prepared for very specific subjects. We have thesaurus for biotechnology, we have thesaurus for library information science. So for many subjects have got their own thesaurus. Then even the so-called classification schemes, DDC, Library of Congress classification, Universal Decimal Classification. So all these things are examples for assigned indexing. Fine, good. Now let us talk about the first one called the subject headings list. As I told you, what is a subject heading? It's nothing but either a single word or group of words which you are using to indicate a particular subject. So you're having 10 books in your library on a particular subject. See whether whatever way you get those 10 books, all the 10 books should be given same subject heading, because all the 10 books talk about the same subject. So those terms you are using to describe the content are called as subject headings. Fine. But we have to thank one gentleman called Crested Arrow, who for the first time in 1856, he published a book called The Art of Making Catalogs. It is the book which emphasized that in order to ensure consistency in the maintenance of subject headings, the cataloger, the librarian should have a list of standardized terms. It is the person who propounded this particular concept. In 1895, the committee of ALA, American Library Association, they published a standardized subject heading list called List of Subject Headings for Use in Dictionary Catalogs long back in 1895. In fact, C.A. Cutter was one of the members of the particular committee. And the same list was revised in 1898 and 1911. In between, in 1909 and 1910, Library of Congress, they started publishing their own subject headings entitled Subject Headings Used in the Dictionary Catalog of the Library of Congress. Okay, so there are many subject headings, but please understand, in order to have an effective control over vocabulary, you need to have a list of master terms. You're going to say that I am going to use only these terms to represent the subject content. So that list is called as list of subject headings. The list of subject headings, what does it have? It contains all the subject access terms. They contain preferred terms, the terms which you are supposed to use to describe a content when you are preparing a subject cataloging entry. Fine. Not only that, if for example, you imagine there are synonyms. See, to represent one concept, to express one's concept, you have got 5 different words. All these 5 words will represent only one particular concept. In that case, these kinds of subject headings will provide you what is the preferred term, what is the term you are supposed to use, and all other synonymous terms can be given in the links. And something like C or something like C also links. Links can be given to all the synonyms. Good? Okay. Mainly, we have 2 different subject headings. One is Library of Congress subject headings, obviously maintained by Library of Congress. First edition was published in a block of years, 1909 to 1914. 11th edition was published in 1988. And of course, the recent edition, 42nd edition, was published online in April 2020. So very good news for you all. If you want to download Library of Congress subject headings, please go to LOC website. This 42nd edition, entire edition can be downloaded free of cost. You can go and download, you can look like how Library of Congress subject headings will be there. You can just check it. Fine. And please understand, this Library of Congress subject headings is an enumerator list of predetermined subject headings. So it is an enumerator, means they have given list. You are not going to anything. They have given the entire list. And they are giving you predetermined subject headings. So they have already decided this is what subject headings you are going to use in your library to represent the concepts. The subject headings are predetermined already. Good. Okay. Okay. What kind of subject headings are available in Library of Congress subject headings? See, many different kinds of headings are there. Single word, I'm sorry, it's not word, it's word. Single word headings, only one word will be used to represent the thought content of a particular book, something like viscosity or advertising. If you feel that the same word will give 2 different meanings in 2 different contexts, you have to make use of something called a scope note to define. For example, when you say tank, tank can be a military tank or it can be water tank. So you need to differentiate water tank from military tank. So what you do? You are using a qualifier, a scope note called military or water within the square bracket or circular bracket. Fine. That's for scope note. Then comes phrase headings. When you want to use more than one word to denote a particular concept, please understand that you make use of more than one word. Okay. For example, how to coin 2 words. See, it can be adjectival. You can make use of adjectives. Medicine, tribal medicine. Taxation, local taxation. Spectroscopy, Raman spectroscopy. Currents, ocean currents. So you can make use of adjectives to form phrase headings. Or you can use conjunctions like and, technology and civilization. This is one particular phrase to describe the thought content of a particular book. Or immigration and immigration. You can make use of and. Or you can make use of prepositions. Photography of birds. Boards of trade. So that kind of prepositions can be used for the purpose of composing phrase headings. Okay. Then comes Even LCSH provides you option to have complex headings and compound headings. When you say complex heading, that means that you are going to make use of two or more than two words which may be having some kind of contextual meaning between them. Okay, that kind of headings. For example, you take this particular heading, education, United States, parent participation. This is one complex heading. We just got three keywords. Three headings are included. So parent participation in the context of United States in the context of education. So this way you can form complex headings also. To make complex heading, you can make use of various subdivisions that we'll see a bit later. Then comes compound headings. When you talk about compound headings, so you please remember all the phase relations given by Dr. S.R. Ranganathan. Whether it is a gender relation or comparison or difference or bias or influence or tool, all these 6 relations which exist between two different subjects. Whenever you want to display the relation that exists between two different subjects, you can make use of compound headings. The provision to denote phase relation available in Library of Congress subject headings. For example, plants, effects of the moon on. So that way you can even generate compound headings. Then comes subdivisions. Whenever you want to create complex headings, you can make use of 4 different kinds of subdivisions. So subdivisions can be either based on topic. So one topic can be used a subdivision of another topic. For example, women employment. It's employment for women. Rice harvesting. The harvesting of rice. So both are subjects. So this way you can have topical subdivisions. Then comes form subdivisions, gardens, dictionaries, United States history periodicals. So whenever you want to mention the form of a particular resource, you can make use of form subdivisions. Then comes chronological subdivisions, India 20th century. This way, whenever you want to add a time to a particular subject heading, you can make use of chronological form divisions. Then comes geographical subdivisions, music, France, Paris. So name of the places, name of the countries and cities, oceans can be used to denote geographical form divisions. Good? I think you're clear. Then comes cross reference. In Library of Congress subject headings, you can have all these kinds of relation which is expressed in its structure. For example, if you see a subject headings, you can see equivalence relationship between terms. They are using abbreviation called USC use, UF used for. I give an example. Automobiles, UF cars. UF means used for. That is, instead of the word cars, we are using automobiles. So when you are preparing catalog for a particular book dealing with cars and automobiles, use the word automobiles. Don't use the word cars. If you go to cars, you know very well subject headings are listed in the alphabetical order. If you go to cars, they will tell you use automobiles. So don't use cars, use automobile. So this kind of equivalence relationship is expressed using use or UF, used for. Then comes hierarchical relationship, where you talk about broader term and narrower term. For example, you take vehicles, broader term is transportation, narrow term is motor vehicles. So for all the narrower terms, you will prepare see also references. Then comes associative relationship. For example, ornithology and birds. Study of birds is called as ornithology. So if you see the subject headings, you will see an entry like this. Ornithology, related term birds, birds, related term ornithology. For all the related terms, you can create see also reference also. Fine. Apart from this, you can see general reference. For example, woodworking industries. See also a specific type of wood making industry. So these are different ways by which you can construct, you can take subject headings to denote the subjects in the library cataloging process. Fine. You can see 2 different ways of rendering names. All the subject headings will be in bold face, bold. That means that you can make use of those subject headings. They are preferred terms. All the cross references will be in light color or normal type. It means that for those items, you can prepare C reference or C also reference. Okay, fine. Now let's go to Sears list of subject headings. See, when people felt that Library of Congress subject is very big, very voluminous, small libraries may not need such a big voluminous of data. So what happened was that there was a lady by name Minnie Sears who published a miniature version, a simplified version of Library Congress in 1923, which was published by H.W. Wilson Company. This particular simplified, abridged version is useful for small and medium-sized libraries. And 15th edition was published in 1994. Fine. Here also, you can have single word heading, you can have phrase headings, you can have specific C references, you can have C also references. Whatever you had seen in Library of Congress, all those kinds of methods of deriving subject headings, all those methods of providing C references are available in Sears list of subject headings also. Here you can see in the screen, I have given an example of a particular entry available for a word called card games in Sears list of subject headings. This is why it look like. See, what is the name of the word? Card games. Okay. What is the classification number in DDC? 795.4. What is the scope node? There is no scope node for this particular term. Okay. Used for, that means don't use the word cards, playing. Don't use the word playing cards whenever you are describing a particular subject headings in your catalog. Instead, you have to use the word card games. Good. What is the broader term? Games. What are the various NT, narrow terms? We have bridge game, we have canasta game, card tricks, tarot. These are all narrow terms. For all these terms, if you want, you can create C also reference also if you are having books on all these subjects. Then comes related term, gambling. So this is a typical entry what you see in Sears list of subject headings. Okay, fine. Then comes thesaurus. So thesaurus is nothing but compiled list of descriptors. So they have selected all the terms that can be used in an information retrieval system. All these selected words are listed in the alphabetical order. Not only that, the relationship existing between all those terms are expressed in the list of thesaurus. Okay. So about a thesaurus, it can be either controlled thesauri or free language thesauri. If it is a controlled thesauri, you will be asked to use only one particular keyword, only one particular subject heading to represent a particular subject. If you're having a free language, even you can use 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, any number of words can be used to represent the thought contents. Okay, fine. But we as library science professionals, we bother about controlled thesauri, not free language thesauri. Okay. In thesaurus, so they are listing all the terms in the alphabetical order, and the relationship that exists between various headings are expressed. How? By hierarchical relationship and non-hierarchical relationship. What is hierarchy? One is upper, superordinate, and another is subordinate. That's a hierarchical relationship. Fine. For example, they have genus species. Rodents is a genus. What is a species? Mice is a species. Okay. Genus species relationship. The same way, whole part relationship. See, cardiovascular system is a smaller area, and broader term is circulatory system. Okay. Cardiovascular system is a part of circulatory system, whole part relationship. Or instance relationship. As I told you in the last class itself, there will be a relation between common noun and proper noun. What is a common noun? Mountain region is a common noun. What is a proper noun? Alps or Everest. So this kind of relationship is called as instance relationship. See, all these three kinds of relationship are termed as hierarchical relationship. You can see in the thesaurus. What about non-hierarchical? We got two. One is equivalence relationship. There are two terms which are equal. They are not having subordinate or subordinate relationship. They are equal. For example, disabilities. Use handicaps. That means don't use the word disabilities. You have to make use of the word handicaps. They are synonyms. Then comes associative relationship. Birds, ornithology. I told you. Cataloging and classification. Classification and cataloging, they don't have hierarchical relationship, but they have a kind of associative relationship. Fine, good. You can see here on the screen how a thesaurus entry will look like in a typical thesaurus. So descriptor is access term, it's a preferred term, the subject heading what you can use for describing it in your subject entry. Descriptor will be there. Then synonyms and quasi-synonyms, if at all it is available, will also be listed in thesaurus. Synonyms, you know, what is synonym? Okay, to represent one idea, we got many words. What is quasi-synonyms? So they may look like synonyms. We consider them as synonyms. For example, cities and towns. Okay, we all feel that both are same. Though may not be same, we feel that they are same. So they are quasi-synonyms. So synonyms and quasi-synonyms are listed. Then broader term is given called BT. Then all the narrower terms are given. Then RT, related terms are given. So this is a typical thesaurus structure. You can ask a question, sir, what is the difference between a thesaurus and the subject headings? I feel both are same. Both are listing the words. Both are showing the relationship existing between the words. Both are showing related term, narrower term, broader terms, and all those things. What is the difference? You may ask a question. Please understand. Subject headings have started adopting the thesaurus format of presenting the things recently. Okay, but still there are some differences. What are they? Please understand. Subject headings will help you in pre-coordinate indexing, and thesaurus is more useful for post-coordinate indexing. So we will discuss what is pre-coordinate indexing and what is post-coordinate indexing. Fine. Thesaurus normally contain very specific words than what you found in a typical subject headings. In thesaurus, you'll never see inverted headings, something like psychology, comma, children. In thesaurus, you will see children's psychology or child psychology. But in subject heading, sometimes they will invert the headings they'll give you. Fine. And if you see the relationship, the kind of relationship expressed in thesaurus, so that is more extensive than what you can see in a typical subject heading. So the relationship extensive display is more in the case of thesaurus. And lastly, mostly the catalogers may not make use of the kind of listed terms in thesaurus as far as the relationship is concerned. Mostly they take these link words from subject headings, and those words are used with the catalogers. So these are very basic differences between thesaurus and subject headings. Good. Okay. So far I told you something about what is indexing and what is assigned indexing, and what are the various examples for assigned indexing. And I was telling you about three things called Library of Congress subject headings, Sears list of subject headings, and finally we talked about one more thing called thesaurus. Fine. So before I proceed further, just like what we had yesterday, if you want to ask any question in these areas, you may ask, please. Floor is open, please. Any question, please? Anything? No question? Then shall we go ahead?
Sir,
Please go ahead.
sir, what is phase relations in LCSH?
Actually, you talk about see, birds is a higher order. Bird is a higher order. Inside birds, no, lot of species may be there. Maybe parrots may be there, maybe quail may be there, maybe that bird, this bird. So many birds will be there, no. So that kind of relationship is called a genus and the species relationship. For example, you take mammals. Mammals belong to genus. They are the higher order level of species. They will be having lot of species. See, you take mammals. One best example can be elephant. So elephant is a species. Mammal is called as genus relationship. So that kind of relationship is called mostly in zoology of such kind of relationship. Okay.
Okay, sir.
Thank you so much. Any other question? Any other question, please? So shall we go ahead? Okay, I think I can go ahead. Fine. Even if you get any question, anybody also can ask you, no problem. Okay. Then comes indexing system. I told you what is the meaning of indexing. The process of preparing subject headings that can be used to denote subjects in your catalogs, in your bibliographies, whatever you call it. Okay. That is the indexing process. To prepare this indexing, to prepare the index entries, you need to have a system. In order to derive the subject headings, you should have some kind of indexing system. System is nothing but a list of interlinked procedures, interlinked steps that help you to prepare the indexing entries. Very simple. Okay. And this indexing system is very, very important because many a time we don't just need a single word. We need more than one word to denote a particular subject. So we should know how to create the subject entries while you're preparing catalogs and when you're preparing some kind of documents to describe thought content. Okay, fine. See, basically, I got two different kinds of indexing system. One is pre-coordinate indexing system. The other is post-coordinate indexing system. So two different methods are there. Let us discuss about these two methods. One is pre-coordinate indexing system. So this indexing system is very, very popular in the printed. For example, if you take nowadays any library, most of the libraries where printed activities are going on, manual activities are going on, they're all having this pre-coordinate indexing. Okay. Here, whenever you want to describe the thought content of a particular book, a resource, you are making use of a string. That means not one word, you're making use of more than one word. You will have 3 or 4 words. These 3 or 4 words will combine together. They will comprise and make a string of terms, and that string of terms will express the thought content. Fine. So all these terms will be taken together, will represent the subject of the book you are cataloging. Fine. And since you are using many words, the question comes here. Sir, when I'm going to arrange all these subject headings in the alphabetical order, how to arrange? Because many words are there. See, because it's very simple. Among many words, what you are using to describe the thought content, one particular word will be decided to be the leading term. That leading term will determine the position of the entry. If your leading entry is classification, this will be filed under C. If your leading term is book, it will be placed under B. Okay, something like that. So the leading term determines the position of your entry. Fine. For example, there is a heading called use of computers in library and information activities. For example, you have got two different subject headings. First subject heading is library activities, use of computers, computers used in library activities. So both the words, both the subject headings will be arranged in the alphabetical order based on the leading term. What is the leading term? The first example, the leading term is library activities. The second example, the leading term is computers. Okay, fine. Okay. So what is this pre-coordinate indexing? So we have to coordinate. What is coordinate? We have to bring together, we have to join together, we have to coordinate 2 or 3 words, 2 or 3 subject headings to express the thought content of the book. Okay. And when this particular coordination taken place, when does it take place? See, whenever the coordination of concepts, the joining together of various subject headings take place before the arrival of the user. Before somebody come and request for some information, you decide. So these are the words I am going to use to describe this particular book, the subject of this particular book. We are going to fix the order. You are going to fix the terms even before somebody comes to your library with a request. Fine. So I'll just give a very, very plain example. You go to a hotel. Okay, you go to a hotel. You ask for a dosha, something like that. For example, what they do, they have a rice flour. Okay, rice flour is there. You go to ask for dosa, what they'll do, they'll make dosa. You go to ask for onion dosa, they'll make onion dosa. You go to ask for omelette dosa, they'll make omelette dosa. So raw materials available. Once you go there, they will make and give you. That is different thing. At the same time, if you go and ask for idli or puri sometime, no, they will be already made a lot of idlis, lot of puris. They will be storing it in some containers. Okay, they will take and give you. They're not ready made. Fine. Then what I want to say is that, see, once everything is made available ready, that is one kind of indexing. When everything is not available ready, that is another kind of indexing. Okay. In pre-coordinated indexing, before users come to the library, as a librarian, I have a book with me. I decide that these are the subject headings I am going to use in this particular order for describing the content of the book. So I have decided the keywords. I have decided the order in which these keywords should appear in my subject cataloging entry. Everything is decided before the arrival of the user. Fine. So this kind of indexing is known as pre-coordinating indexing. You can ask the question, sir, how we can decide? See, we have been working in the library for many years. I know what kind of keywords, with what kind of keywords my users will come and ask for the information library. I will take the help of all the subject headings list available. I will frame my own subject headings before the arrival of the user. Okay, fine. Why? Once you assign the keywords, you can have a consistent description of subjects. Whatever book comes on a particular subject, you will assign the same subject heading. And apart from that, you can provide access from different concepts. So same subject will be represented by more than 2 or 3 subject headings list. That you can do always, no problem. Okay. So what are the examples of pre-coordinate indexing? These are all examples. Cutter, Kaiser, Ranganathan, Sharp, Foskett, Craven, Bhattacharya, Preciz, all these are pre-coordinate indexing. If you are using all these indexing system, it means that before the user comes to library, you decide the keywords and you decide the order of the keywords for describing a particular subject. For example, you take Ranganathan, he promulgated chain indexing. Then Sharp, he introduced SLIC, selective listing in combination indexing. Foskett, rotated index. Craven, he introduced nested phrase indexing. Bhattacharya, he introduced POPSI, postulate based permuted subject indexing. Then Derek Austin, he introduced Preciz, preserved context indexing system. And long before, we had Kaiser, who introduced 2 concepts called concrete and process. So whenever you are deciding the order of terms to be used in a particular subject entry, you have to write the concrete word first, then you write the process. Process means action, energy. Concrete means personality, something like that. Okay. When you talk about Cutter long back in 1876, when he released RDC, Rules for Dictionary Catalog, there has given an elaborate account of pre-coordinate indexing. See, for example, in a particular heading, both the person and country appears, where you have to write the name of the person, where you have to write the name of the country. In a particular title, both country and a particular event take place. Whether you should write the name of the country first or you should write the name of the event. So these kinds of all these subject headings, pre-coordination was discussed and decided long back by Cutter in 1856 itself. And apart from that, all the classification schemes are pre-coordinate indexing. They already decided these are the words you have to use. Fine, good. Now let us see. We are not going to discuss all the kinds of indexing systems. A couple of indexing, pre-code indexing we'll discuss. Okay. Okay. What is post-coordinate then? In the post-coordination, what we are trying to do is that when a book comes to library, we decide what are the individual keywords. What are the individual keywords that can be used to describe this particular book. So only individual words are identified and kept as such. When a user comes to library and asks for something, that time we are going to link, join all the words from various places. We bring them together, we coordinate, and then we execute the query to find out what books are available. So in this case, the coordination of individual concepts, individual headings take place at the time of searching. At the time when we are going to retrieve and view the documents, that time the individual terms that may be used to describe the subject will be brought together, and then they will find out what is the result for this particular query. Fine, good. That is a post coordination. This is also known as simply coordinate indexing. The good thing with the post coordinate indexing is that in the pre-coordinate, you fix the order. This is the first word, the second word, this is the third word. Only in this particular order, you have to write the subject index heading. You fix. But in post coordinate, there is no such order at all. Why? Because all the individual terms are left available in the index. That's all. We are not coordinating. We are not fixing any order for any subject. When the user comes to library, that time we'll coordinate, we'll give the results. Fine. So post coordinate indexing are of 2 different categories: term records or item records. If you take term records here, please understand, in the term record, you take small cards. Okay. In every card, you write one particular topic, only one particular topic, like library, education, university, India. You take single terms, and for every term, you prepare one card. In that card, for example, you take card called library. In your library, whatever books you have on library, all those accession numbers will be written in that particular card. So if you take one card called library, that will show all the accession numbers of all the books you have in your library on library. Fine. So that kind of method is called as term records. Fine. Best example is unit term indexing. Okay, fine. Then comes item records. Here what you do is that, so if you're having one book, you'll have one card. If you're having two books, you'll have two cards. For one book, you have one card. So the accession number is written on the top of the card. And in the card, you have all the keywords, maybe 20, 30 individual single keywords, 10 words, 5 words, whatever words you feel required to describe that particular subject, all those words are written along with the codes. This is what we call as item records. Examples are, we had ZAT coding of Morse, optical coincidence method, Batten system, Peekaboo system, aperture card system, peephole card system, edge knots. See, many of these are not available now. Okay, maybe after the arrival of ICT, automation, all those things, all these things have gone. Okay, fine. Okay, so what are the indexing systems? In the pre-coordinate, we have BTI, British Technology Index, indexing systems by Goetz, S.R. Ranganathan chain indexing, HP Loon keyword indexing, Bhattacharya POPSI, Derek Austin Precis, Faraday relational indexing, Sharp SLIC, Kaiser systematic index. These are all pre-coordinates. What are the post-coordinate? We have Batten system from Batten, Electro system, optical coincidence system, Peekaboo system, unit term indexing by Mortimer, and Zatter system by Morse. These are a few examples. Okay, good. Let us discuss about four important techniques called chain indexing, POPSI, Precis, and one unit term indexing. We'll discuss about these four things. Okay, I'll go through this one by one. So chain indexing by S.R. Ranganathan is very simple, which he devised long back in 1934, which was used by BNB, British National Bibliography, for more than 18 years. Till the arrival of Precis, they were using only Ranganathan's chain indexing for the purpose of deriving the subject headings. Fine, okay. And in this method, how do we derive subject headings? So based on the rules and procedures where a chain is given, that is, you receive a particular book, you write the classification number for that book, that classification number is converted into a chain. From the chain, you use the rules and procedures to decide what are all the links for which you have to prepare the subject index entry. What are all the links for which you don't need to prepare any subject index entry. That is why this is called as chain procedure. Once you get some subject headings from chain procedure, it will be written in class index entry, which have 3 columns: leading section, reference section, and the location section. In the leading section, you will write the name of the subject headings. Whatever you have derived from chain indexing, that will be written in the leading section. In the reference section, I think you will remember this particular statement: for documents in this class and its subdivisions, see the classified part of the catalog under the class number. Remember this kind of things you write in the classified catalog entry, you may be knowing. Okay. In the location, you write the classification number. Okay, this is what the format. Fine, good. So when you frame a chain of the class number, many kinds of links are there. Okay, you have to prepare subject heading, subject index entry only for the sort links, and you should not prepare subject index entry for unsort link, missing link, and false link. Please understand. Okay, sort link means is a link, a subject under which the users may come and ask for, the user may come and search for information. That is known as sort link. What is unsort link? Sir, I feel that in my library, users may not come and ask for the material using these particular keywords. This is not sought by my users. So unsort link, it's not expected by the users. Actually, it is subject to variation. If you feel that in your library, your readers will come and ask for that particular information under that particular keyword, you can always use it, absolutely no problem. Then comes missing link. See, for example, in sometimes what happens, if you use a classification scheme, for some numbers, there won't be any equivalent terms at all. For example, for 2, 3, 4, answer may be there, classification number may be there. For 2, 3, no number may be there. So some gap may be in the classification scheme itself. So whenever such gap is there, they are called as missing links. Then comes false link. For example, if you are having a link which ends with a connecting symbol, or which ends with a number for time phaser, which ends with the number for phase relation, so they are called false links. Okay, good. How you have to derive subject endings? So you have to take a chain. You have to find out all the subject sort links, unsort links, missing links, false links. You are not going to prepare subject entry for any other link except sort links. So once you finalize all the sort links, you have to start from the bottom. You have to start from the last subject heading, and you have to move up till the first short heading. And all these entries written one by one with contextual interpretation. For example, here is an example, a typical example you can see in many of the text, standard text. 234:7.44 inverted comma N9 small t. This is not a capital, small t. A report on reference service in university libraries in India during 1990s. So what I'm going to do is that I'm going to form a chain. How you can form a chain? First digit becomes a first link, 2. Second digit, 2, 3, no numbers, 2, 3, 4 they have taken, 2, 3, 4 second link, 2, 3, 4 colon third link, 2, 3, 4 colon 7 fourth link. This way all the links are formed. Then you have to write against each number whether it is a sort link or unsort link or missing link or false link. Okay, 2 sort link because students may come to library, they may ask, sir, I want some books on library science. It is sort link. 2, 3, 4 university library. Students may come and ask, sir, I want some books on university library administration or university library automation. It's a sort link. 2, 3, 4 colon. So any number ending with the connecting symbol is called a false link. So no entry will be prepared for 2, 3, 4 colon. Then comes 2, 3, 4 colon 7 reference service in university library. This is a sort link. You can take it. Then 2, 3, 4 colon 7 dot. This is a false link because it ends with a connecting symbol. Then comes 0.4. That means in Asia. This is a sort link. 0.44 India sort link. 0.44 inverted comma. This inverted comma is missing here. Kindly you can put on inverted comma because since it is ending with a connecting symbol, it is a false link. Then inverted comma N is a 20th century. If you feel that sometime they may come and ask for the information about 20th century, even you can have it this as your sort link. Absolute no problem. There is no hard and fast rule. N9 is it's not a complete number, so this is a false link. N9T, T stands for report. This can be taken as sort link. So you can derive what are the sort links based on the chain of class numbers. In many times in your library, if you feel that a particular link is being sought by users, absolute no problem. You can have that particular link sort link. There's no hard and fast rule. Okay, good. So for this particular title, what are the various subject entries you can have? You can have 5 different entries. Starting from the last one. I start from the last one called here India. Then I go up. So for example, report, India, reference service, university library. This is the last sort link. This is the first sort link. Second entry, I remove report, I write everything. For third one, I remove first 2 items and write other 3 items. Then university library. Then at last you can write library science. So this way you can create subject headings based on the class number using Ranganathan's chain indexing. Good. Then comes POPC, a method enunciated by Ganesh Bhattacharya of DRDC. He has developed his own style called SIL, Subject Indexing Language. As Ranganathan has developed a PMEST, Ganesh Bhattacharya has developed another concept called DEPAM, DEPAM, discipline, entity, property, action, and modifier. He says that any concept will be the manifestation of any one of these 5 elementary categories. Ranganathan told the fundamental categories. He has given the word elementary categories. Okay, good. So what is D? D stands for discipline. Any subject, maybe physics, chemistry, or physical sciences, it is called discipline. What is entity? Like personality in Cohen classification, here we have entity, maybe energy, light, plants, all those things. In action, it is a process like function, migration, selection, the process, the action are placed under A. Then comes property, maybe the attribute of that particular entity. It can be quantitative or it can be qualitative. Maybe like something like property, effect, power, capacity. Then comes modifier. Modifier can be any word that will manifest, that will narrow, or that will broaden the meaning of all other 4 elementary categories. So that may be a modifier for discipline, modifier for entity, modifier for action, and modifier for property. For example, energy, you can have green energy. We have selection, you have strict selection. You can have power, you have strong power. So that way, you can have any number of modifiers which can be manifested with all other 4 elementary categories. Good. How this particular POPSI works, it's based on general theory of classification. So Ganesh Bhattacharya has developed his own language, a new language called SIL, Subject Indexing Language. For that language, he has developed a set of rules, regulations, postulates, canons. So you have to read all those things to understand the subject indexing language of Ganesh Bhattacharya. And here, they talk about Clasaurus. What is Clasaurus? A combination of faceted classification and thesaurus. You please visualize Cohen classification. So what happens in Cohen classification second part? They give you all the main classes. In each and every main class, Rangana has given what is personality, what is matter, what is energy. Space and time is given as a common isolate. This is called a faceted classification. Okay, fine. At the end of the second volume of Cohen classification, you have something called index. Okay, how the index will be arranged? Index terms are arranged in the alphabetical order. So this is what we have seen in Cohen classification. Bhattacharya says that let us maintain the faceted scheme as such, no problem. When it comes to index, instead of having a normal alphabetical index, we can replace that particular index with a thesaurus. So remove the alphabetical index. There you go on to place a thesaurus that becomes Clasaurus. So in POPSI is going to help you to do both faceted classification and the associative classification. What is associative classification? The preparation of subject entries, that is called associative classification. So POPSI will help you to prepare these 2 different kinds of classification. And what is the sequence of terms? First you have to write D, then E, then P, then A, interpolated by M. Good, this is the order, Deepam. And for this purpose, Rangana has given Bhattacharya has given a table. So what is the notation? 0 for form modifier, 1 for general treatment. For all the phase relation is given the numbers, then time, environment, place, entity, discipline. So all these notations are available in POPSI table. Just like we have got rotators, relators, primary code, something like precise. Good. See, in POPSI, when you are going to prepare subjectives for a particular book, that will consist of 8 different steps. What are they? First 5 steps: analysis, formalization, modulation, standardization. So these 5 steps, preparing, organizing, classification, entry. These 5 steps, if you are preparing, these 5 steps are based on the postulates. What are the postulates? Postulates are nothing but the rules and regulations what you have framed by yourself, because you feel that these rules and regulations are beneficial, they are good, they are helping me, so you're using. So those are called postulates. So these 5 steps are done based on the postulates given by Ganesh Bhattacharya. The result of the 5th step is organizing classification schedule. Okay, just like what you see in part 2 of Cohen classification, you will see the results. That is at the end of 5th step. Last 3 steps, decision about terms of approach, preparation of entries of associative classification, and then alphabetization. Last 3 steps are based on the technique of permutation. What is permutation? You will change the words. Okay, first word will become second word become third word. That way you will shunt the words. So based on permutation, last 3 steps are given. At the end of the 8th step, you will get associative classification, that is index. alphabetical list of subject headings. That is why POPSI is called as postulate based, okay, postulate based subject indexing, permuted subject indexing, because it has got 2 steps called postulate based 5 steps, permutation based 3 steps. Just one example. You have received a book in library called Chemical Treatment of Tuberculosis of Lungs. First step, analyzing. You're analyzing. What is D? What is subject? Main subject, medicine. Then comes E, means entity. That is equal to personality. What is the personality here? Lungs. You're talking about lungs. What is the attribute of lungs? You talk about chemical treatment. Okay. And what is the property? Tuberculosis. Okay, fine. So chemical treatment is action. Tuberculosis is a property of the element called lungs. This is going to be formalized. You're going to arrange them in the order. Okay. First is medicine D, lungs E, D, E, then comes P, then comes A. In this particular order we arrange. Then comes modulation. Modulation means if at all you require, you can add some broader terms, you can add some narrower terms so that you can make that particular heading very specific. For example, medicine, no problem. For lungs, they have added 2 superordinate concepts called man, respiratory system, lungs they added. The tuberculosis, they added 1 superordinate broader term called disease. Okay. Now they have added some superordinate or broader terms. Fine. There's no change in medicine. D, there's no change in A called chemical treatment. Then comes standardization. If you feel that the title is not having any standardized word, that particular word can be replaced with the standardized entry. Here, for example, they have used the word chemical treatment. But in your classification scheme or in your authority list or subject headings, you have the word called chemical treatment, not chemical treatment, chemotherapy. So chemotherapy is a common word used in classification scheme. That is standardized term. So 1, 2, 3, 4. 4 steps are over. In the 5th step, you prepare the classification schedule. That is based on the numbers, based on the notations. Okay. What is 7? Medicine. Why did I put 7 here? You can see here 7 stands for discipline. So D should be written first. That is why I have done 7 medicine. Then comes 6. What is 6 in the table? Table says that 6 stands for entity. What is the entity here? Lungs. How you are writing? Man, respiratory system, lungs. So this is the 6. The term 6 stands for E entity. Fine. Then comes, for this 6, we have 6.2. What is this 6.2? 0.2 means property. Okay. 0.2 means property. What's property? It is a property of this entity. What is the property? Tuberculosis. Fine. Okay. Then comes 6.2.1. 6.2, you know. What is 0.1? It means that 0.1 means action. 0.1 means action. Here we say that 6.2.1. This is an action on the property of this particular element. So this is the order in which the phase sector classification schedule is prepared. Now, next one, you decide the terms. As a cataloger, you decide what are the terms I am going to use to describe the thought content of this particular document. For example, I have decided to use lungs, tuberculosis, chemotherapy as the preferred terms. So now I can have all these terms: lungs, tuberculosis, chemotherapy, and the entire thing of phase classification, no, 7, 6, 6.2, 6.21, the entire thing is repeated under every preferred term. So 3 entries are ready. Then comes chemical treatment. I'm giving a C entry called chemotherapy. If anybody comes to library and asking for chemical treatment, I am telling them, I am sorry, in our library, we have not used the term chemical treatment. If you want to get some materials on chemical treatment, kindly look for the word chemotherapy in our catalog. So all these are ready. Now we put everything in the alphabetical order. So these are the 8 steps involved in creating entries in subject entries in POPSI. Okay. See, POPSI is a very, very, it is available in 2 levels, I can say. The first level is a common one. If you want to prepare a POPSI structure for a particular subject also, you can prepare. So that is known as POPSI specific. POPSI specific, something like depth classification or subject specific thesaurus. Even you can create a specific POPSI format for a particular subject also, you can do it, no problem. Good. Then comes PRISIS, Preserved Context Indexing System, a system which was introduced by Derek Aston in 1970. In fact, when British National Bibliography was unable to prepare the entries in the later part of their, maybe after 20 years of existence, they were asking for a substitute for chain indexing. Till then, they were using chain indexing. And Derek Aston provided a substitute where the human and computers will be working together to generate the subject index entries. Fine, that's it. How the system works? Very simple. So this is a system where you are going to prepare a string of terms. Means you are going to prepare 3 or 4 terms to denote a particular book. Okay. And all these terms will be allotted role indicators. So every string will be allotted one role indicators. Derek Aston has given a long list of indicators. From that, you will choose the appropriate role indicator, and you will allot role indicator for each and every term available in the string. Fine. So this is what we have as humans. Humans have to read the book, understand the subject, and find out the terms which consist of a single string, and they will allot role indicator for each and every string. This is what you have to do. Once you have done this, this will be entered into a computer, and computer will create all kinds of subject entries required for the particular book using something called shunting process. So that is what all about PRISIS. Okay, good. Okay, so PRISIS follows a 2-line, 3-part style. That means it will have any subject index entry will have components in 2 lines, and these 2 lines will have 3 items. This is known as lead, this is known as qualifier, this is known as display. So lead, qualifier, display. See, these 3 items will be available in 2 lines. Fine. In PRISIS, they have terms, 3 or 4 terms may be used to denote a particular book subject. All these terms will become strings. The strings are allotted with role operators. And PRISIS follows 2 rules. One is one-to-one principle, another is context dependency. That means if you are framing 3 words to denote a particular subject, each and every word is contextually related to one another. That's what we call as context dependency or one-to-one relationship. Good. Okay. And these are the role operators that decide what is the order in which the keyword should appear in the subject index entry. So role operators decide the order. Good. Okay. What are the various operators? We have primary operators. Please understand, in many exams, they are giving a matching type. They're asking 0 stands for, 1 stands for. You can kindly go through this. They are the primary operators. 0 means location, 1 key system, 2 action, 3 means perform of the action, 6 means target audience, form document, all things. Secondary operators, we have many things. Mainly we use part. We have member of something, author attribute. We can use these secondary operators. Then comes primary quotes and secondary quotes, followed by dollars. Many quotes are there. We can use, an example, I can show you 1 or 2, okay? For proper noun or place name, for a common noun, for coordinate concepts, for downward, inward connections, for all these purposes, we can make use of this primary and secondary quotes, okay? And PRISIS provides you 3 different methods. They provide you 3 formats of presenting the subject index entries. What are they? The first format is called as standard format. That means you will have a lead, you will have a qualifier, you will have a display. All these things will be displayed in the subject index entry. For example, recruitment of personnel in textile industries in India. You know very well, India is the location, so 0. What is the core item here? Textile industry. We are talking about textile industries. So number 1 is given. So 0 is a environment. 1 is a key system. What is P? P small p stands for part. What is part? Personnel. Personnel means the people, those who are working in textile industry. They are part of textile industry. So I used P, small p. Okay. This small p is taken from secondary operators. This 0 and 1 are taken from primary operators. Okay. I am allotting as indexer. I am allotting these relators. Then comes recruitment. We have added 2. What is 2? Action. What is the action here? The process of recruiting. So I have allotted all the role indicators. How I am going to prepare the entry? I'll take the first one. First 0 I take. 0. India becomes lead. There is no qualifier here. All the display, all other items will be given as the display here. Then comes lead becomes qualifier. See, lead becomes qualifier. And in the display, first item becomes the lead. Okay. Textile industries comes as the lead item. The previously used lead becomes the qualifier. Other items are in the display section. The second section, third entry, the already one item is there in the lead section. One item is there in the qualifier section. Both will be moved to qualifier. And for the display, next word will come as the lead here. Personnel. Personnel becomes next lead term. So this is known as the process of shunting. The words are shunted. That means lead becomes qualifier. Display becomes lead in rotation. In this process, the subject index entries are created. This is a general normal format called standard format. Fine. Sometimes we need a different format called inverted format. See, whenever you see a title, if your title is having 4 code, primary code indicator 4 or 5 or 6, then you have to go for something called inverted format. What is, for example, schools in India, a directory. So school is the environment. School is the main key component. So 1 is given. India is a place, environment. So 0 is given. So directory is a form of the document. It is a format of the book. Okay. What is the number for format form of document? Number 6 is to be given. That is why I have given here 6. So they say that whenever the word directory becomes the lead, okay, lead qualified display, no, when the number 4 or 5 or 6, here directory is there. When directory becomes the lead term, they say that all other words should be given in italics. Okay, that is the thing. The directory, India and schools will be in italics. Fine. To denote that this is a form subject entry. Fine. This is called the inverted format, and this is to be used whenever your any one keyword has either 4 or 5 or 6 as your role indicator. Fine. Okay. Then comes predicate transformation format. This is another format. So whenever there's a keyword like India, crops, damage, droughts. The title is damage to crops by droughts in India. This is a title. I have allotted the role indicators. India is the environment 0. Crops is the entity 1. 2 stands for damage. What is 2? Do you recapitulate? 2 stands for action. What is action? Here things are damage. Damage is action. What is 3? 3 is a drought. Drought is a cause. Which caused this particular action? I'll give the numbers. Okay. Here they say that whenever you are using agent code 3, agent code means who is responsible for this particular action. What is action? Damage. Who has caused the damage? Droughts. So I allotted 3. So whenever you are allotting using 3 as a indicator code, then you have to follow predicate transformation format. For example, you can see here damage $V $W. What is this $V and $W? You can see here $V stands for downward. $W stands for upward. Okay, that means that damage by droughts, damage to crops, forward, downward or upward. Okay, you can see here India crops damage by droughts, damage by droughts. Here you can see damage to crops. So here what we are trying to do, we are linking the action, either to crops or to the agent. So this kind of linking, whenever you want to have in your subject index entry, you can go for predicate transformation format. Fine, good. For example, I have one example here. Reference service in university libraries in India. What is the lead, qualifier, display? What are the keywords here? India is a keyword, university library is a keyword, or universities, libraries can be taken as 2 different keywords. Then reference services. What I can do is that I can take India because India stands for 0. environment. University stands for entity, that is comes under one key system. So after, according to the indicators you are given, you will arrange it. First case, there's only lead is there, all other keywords become display. And then India, which is in the lead position, will be moving to qualifier section. The first item in the display becomes the lead section. Okay, this we can keep on shunting. You'll get 4 different entries. Good. The last one I'll take 5 minutes, then we'll have a question and answer discussion before we proceed further. So these 3 are pre-coordinate indexing. Before the users come to the library, you make use of either Precis or POPSI or chain indexing. You prepare all the catalog subject entries, you be ready. So users will come and search for something, or you will search on behalf of the readers, you will retrieve documents, give it to them. Fine, good. But we are talking about unit term indexing given by Marchima Chaubey, a very popular man. Here, we are going to make use of unit terms. Unit term means small terms. Single terms will be used for the purpose of indexing. If you take one particular book, you may have 5 words, 6 words, 7 words, but all these words are individual. They are not coordinated. They are not kept together. They are kept separately. Fine? Okay. Fine. When somebody comes and asks for the information, that time we will coordinate we join all the words, all the terms, and we find out the results. Fine. I'll give one example. Okay. This is an example of unit term indexing. For example, I have a book in the library called Teaching Library Science Through Distance Education. How many keywords are there? Teaching, library science, distance education. 3 keywords are there. So what I will do, I will prepare 3 cards called term cards, 3 records. 1 record, 2nd record, 3rd record. Teaching, library science, distance education. In this card, I will make 10 columns. Starting from 0, I'll go up to 9. So 10 columns are there. What is the accession number of this particular book? 630. Here is the last digit, 0. That is known as terminal posting. That means the last digit of the accession number of your book will decide where you have to write this particular number. So 630 should be written under 0 because the terminal digit is 0. So 630 is written under teaching, under library science, under distance education. First book is over. Then you get second book, evaluation of teaching. It's got 2 different keywords, evaluation, teaching. So teaching is already there. You will go and write 716 under 6. Then evaluation, no card is there. You prepare 1 card and you go and write 716 under 6. Good. Now third book comes teaching in the university. Already there is a card for teaching. So number is 1011. So you can write this 1011 under 1. Then for university, you prepare a separate card and 1011 will be written under 1. Fine, is clear? Now 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 5 cards are prepared now. Okay. They are all individual single terms. Now somebody comes to library and they're asking for a book, something like this. What is the book they're asking for? For example, teaching and evaluation. I want a book on teaching and evaluation. So you will take teaching card, you take evaluation card, and you see which number is common in both these cards. Which is common? 716. So this book is relevant to him. You give it to him the book with the accession number 716. Sometimes somebody come and ask for the book. So I want a book on something like teaching of library science. You take teaching, you take library science, you look. What is the common accession number? 630. You tell him, please go and take the book with accession number 630. So the terms are coordinated at the time of search and retrieval, not before the arrival of the user. So this is the best example for post coordinate indexing. Good. Okay, fine. I think so far we discussed about pre-coordinate and post-coordinate indexing techniques. Before I take up the next topic, whatever doubts you have, you want to ask, you can please go ahead, please. The floor is open. Please go some questions. Yes, please. Any question about these pre-coordinate and post-coordinate indexing? Actually, they are not new. Okay, they are not new concept. New. I am not teaching you any new thing. I was just refreshing whatever you might have learned in your regular studies. Any doubt? എന്തെങ്കിലും സംശയം ഉണ്ടോ? എന്തെങ്കിലും ചോദിക്കണോ? ചോദിച്ചോ?
Sir,
Yes, please go ahead.
I saw in one question paper, Prissy is originated from option slick, popsy, compass. Which is answer, sir?
Which is, please repeat the question, please. Please repeat the question.
Prissy is originated from slick, SLIC, slick, popsy, cubic, compass.
Because I should say it is from Compass. Compass is COMPAS is another computer-based subject indexing, because the all other three things what you told, no, POPSY or PRECISE or SILIC, or they're all manual systems. They are not related to computer-based index preparation. Only COMPAS is a method that was used before, where they tried to use computers for the purpose of generating automatic subject index entries. So I feel that Compass should be the answer. Okay.
Okay, sir.
Thank you. Next question. വേറെ എന്തെങ്കിലും ചോദിക്കണോ? ചോദിച്ചോ. Yes, please. No question?
Sir, can you explain briefly about a peekaboo?
To be more frank, I am not aware of all those different indexing systems which was existing a couple of years before. Peekaboo, normally people say that it is something like a cupboard, no? You have a big cupboard where a lot of pigeonholes will be there, and they will allot some keywords for each and every pigeonhole. Something like that, no? That kind of system it was. Okay, but I'm not very clear with all other indexing systems. It was very old. Yeah, I'm sorry for that. Yeah. Okay.
Thank you, sir. Because
Yes.
one question paper I saw it. That's why
Okay.
I just asked.
What is the question? Will you be able to recollect the question? No.
No, sir. Actually, I just when I was referring some questions, I just got to see this word. So
Okay. Maybe if at all you come across any question which include this as an option, something like that, you can please kindly ask the question. We will discuss about the particular question. Absolutely no problem. Okay.
Okay. Thank you, sir.
Okay. Thank you. Okay. Let me proceed further, because we have got some more things to discuss today. So that we will discuss about this today, and I asked for one more day. Maybe on May 3rd, I'll come back to you again, and whatever we discussed yesterday and whatever we discussed today, for both the chapters together, we'll have a question answer session discussion on May 3rd. Okay, that's what we have decided, because it's not possible to have question answer session today. So we are having question answer session for both yesterday's sessions and today's sessions on May 3rd. Okay, so I will meet you on May 3rd. So today I will try to complete this particular chapter. Okay, then comes the derived indexing. As I told you, derived indexing means, see, you receive a book in your library, you read the title of the book, or you read the abstract, you read the table of contents. If you require, even you can go through the contents of the book, from the keyword, from the title, from the abstract, from the table of contents, from the text, you collect some words. Those words are going to be used by you to denote the subject headings of a particular document. That is the process of derived indexing, where cataloger is not going to use his intelligence. Cataloger is not going to add his own way of interpretation. He is not going to use much of his intelligence, because many a time catalogers don't have time to analyze all those things. So what they do is that they simply, this is the title, they prepare some keywords and they write the keywords. So that kind of preparation of indexing based on the title is called as derived indexing. Maybe from title, maybe from abstract, maybe from table of contents. That process is called as derived indexing or derivative indexing. Good. Okay. So here, as I told you, in the derived indexing, what the, I think others can kindly mute your audio, please. I think somebody has unmuted the audio, please. Yes, thank you so much. For example, if there is a book you receive, you want to describe the particular book in terms of subject keywords, these keywords will be taken only from the title of the book or abstract or table of contents or the text, not from any subject headings. Okay, that kind of process called as derived indexing. Okay, so mostly we have two different kinds of derived indexing called title based indexing and the citation indexing. Okay, what is the title based indexing? So many a time title will disclose the summary of the particular document. So what we do, we take title as the base. From the title, we take some words to denote and prepare the subject index entries. This is also called as keyword indexing. In fact, the concept of keyword indexing or title based indexing was initiated by Andrea Cristodaro in 1956. The name he gave for technique is called as keywords and titles. Actually, he used it in the Manchester Public Library. Later on, when H.P. Loon of IBM, he came, he revived this particular system introduced by Cristodaro, and he named the method like keyword in context in 1958. Okay, that means all the subject entry methods where you depend on the title for the purpose of preparing subject index entries are called as title based indexing or keyword indexing. What are they? First thing is keyword in context. Here, what we are going to do, we are going to take each and every word required for describing the subject of the book from the title itself. Okay, so each and every significant word in the title is going to be taken at, and that is going to be used as the entry point or access point. Apart from that, what you are going to do, you are going to give the entire remaining part of the title also. Otherwise, people may not be able to understand what is the context in which this particular keyword is to be used. So both the keyword and the remaining part of the title will be used as the subject headings under KWIC method. Here three parts are there. First step is you have to find out the keywords. You should find out, you have to see the title. From the title, you have to pick up what are the keywords. Secondly, you have to decide the context. If you decide a particular word to be the keyword, then you have to fix all other remaining part of the title as the contextual terms. Then comes identification and location code. If you describe a particular book, either it will have a accession number or barcode number or ISBN number, something like that. That can be used, or shelf location, that can be used under location code. Fine. So three steps are there. You have to select the keywords, you have to generate the entries, and you have to arrange the entries in the alphabetical order. Only three steps are there. Let us see an example. What is the name of the book? Classification of books in a university library. What is the accession number? 1279. So what I am doing first step, I am identifying the keywords. What are the keywords? Classification, books, university, library. University, library. There are four keywords I have traced. First step is over. What is the second step? I am going to decide the lead term, topical term, preferred term, and all the remaining part of the title will be kept in the context. For example, I did the first word classification. Okay, you see here after classification of books in a university library, the remaining part of the entire title is given after classification, then followed by accession number. So this is the first entry. Second entry, what is the keyword? Books. After books, what is available in a university library? You write in a university library. Put a slash, starting point of remaining part of the title, classification of, that you write, that becomes second entry. What is third entry? You take university, you write university. After university, only word library is there, you write library. Then put a slash, then you write the remaining part of the title, classification of books in. Then the accession of the third entry. What is the fourth entry? Library. After library, nothing is there, put a slash, then classification of books in a university, then accession number. Okay, now four entries are ready. So I write the main access point followed by the remaining part of the title. Then comes, I will arrange all the four entries in alphabetical order, and this becomes the subject headings for this particular book. This method is called as KWIC. Okay. Then comes KWOC, out of context. Here what they do is that they will take all the keywords, they are shifting all the keywords to the extreme left, which is followed by the complete title. In the previous case, we have taken only the remaining part of the title. Here, we are repeating the entire title. So this can be given under two different methods. First method, for example, title is computerization of libraries in India. Three keywords are there: computerization, libraries, India. After every keyword, I will go and write the entire title followed by the accession number. These can be written either in the single sentence, or you can split and write in two different lines also. So this method is called a KWOC. Okay, fine. Next one, keyword augmented in context, KWAC. See, you feel that the title is very not clear. It is a vague title. From the title, it is not possible for you to get all the required terms. Then what to do? When title is not expressive, when title is not giving you enough things, then what you have to do? You have to go and read the book, table of contents, and you have to find out some extra words which can be added to title so that the title becomes very clear. For example, I have received a book entitled Expert System. I don't know whether it talks about export system in supermarket or in library or insurance company. I don't know. So I will go through the book. I found out that this book is talking about expert system in the library. So what I do, name of the title is expert system. I will go and add what I am adding, expert system in library. Now what is the new title of this book? Expert system in library. For this title, I prepare the subject entries either based on KWIC or KWOC. You follow any one method and prepare the subject index entries. Only difference is that the keyword is augmented. Augmented means you are adding something by taking something from the text. Okay, by abstract, something like that. That's known as KWAC. Then comes keyword with context. Here, we are not going to use the entire full title. Instead, we are going to read the title. We are going to find out what is a very key element of this particular title. Only that particular keyword is repeated in all the subject headings. And if you require, you can use your own some kind of scope limiting words. For example, I'll tell you example here. See, the title is Bacterial Contamination in Indian Distilleries Using Waste Molasses. Okay. What is the topic of this particular title? Bacterial contamination. That is the main focus. So what the cataloger can do? Cataloger will take these two words. These two words will be repeated in all the subject entries. See, bacterial contamination, bacterial contamination, bacterial contamination, all repeated. But other words, he can decide what is the word he can use according to his own whims and fancies. If required, even he can use some words to delimit the function of primary word. For example, this is called molasses. What you can do, instead of the word molasses, you can use alcohol fermentation. That is a more the apt word for this. So even so here we are not using the entire title. You are taking only the core of the title, and the core of the title is repeated in all the subject entries. And apart from the core word, either you take some words for title, or even you can use your own words to augment the title. So this kind of method is called as keyword with context. Good. Then comes key term alphabetical, Kate alpha. It's very simple method where if there's a title, you take all the keywords, and all the keywords are listed one by one in the shunting way. We are not going to place any title. It is not going to be in a sentence form. Each and every word will be different. Each and every word will be differentiated from other word with the help of a comma. For example, acquisition of journals in a university library, Japan. What is the number? 335. I take all the keywords. Acquisition, journals, Japan, library, university. Only these 5 keywords are available in the title. Okay. And all the 5 keywords will be shunted. Acquisition, then journals, then Japan, then library, then university. So this kind of formation is called as key term alphabetical method. Good. Then comes VADX. This is another method where you are not only writing the keywords taken from the title, you are adding the name of the author also. So name of the author and the keywords taken from the title, both are used for subject index entries. This method is called as work and author index called VADEX. For example, there is a book called Selected Water Resources Index for Wisconsin. Wisconsin is the name of the university. So what you can do is that, for example, you can write Wisconsin University becomes the lead term. This is the name of the author, corporate author, followed by the keywords, water resources for Wisconsin. So here, along with the keyword taken from the title, you are adding the name of the author also. This method is called VADEX. Then comes double KVIC. You know, one KVIC, this is double KVIC. Here, what we are going to do is that you are going to find out the required number of keywords from the title. Then except the keyword, all other remaining part of the title will be shunted in the wrap around format. For example, I'll tell you, title is the computer analysis of weather forecast. Okay. For example, I'm just showing only two keywords. We can prepare entry for other keywords also. For example, first keyword is computer. Second keyword is analysis. For the keyword computer, after computer, whatever comes you take. Analysis of weather forecast. Analysis of weather forecast. Over. Then come to the front portion. Before coming to these, they write D. This computer now, since it is a keyword, this is a entry element or access point. This is not repeated again in the title. Okay, in the remaining part, it's not repeated. Then you take after computer, you take then forecast. After forecast, the analysis of. You take analysis of. And after weather forecast, you take the computer analysis of. In all three places, the word computer is not repeated. And all other words are repeated using KWIC method. You remember, remaining part of the title is written here. The same way, you can prepare for a particular book more than any number of entries required for the book. Good. Then comes last one is KLIC, key letter in context. It's a very, very interesting concept introduced by Dr. Kent. Here he says, if a title is there, you tell the computer what is the truncation you have to use. You can use truncation. I told you about truncation searching where you can go and remove few letters. You can say in this title, for example, on introduction to. So your and introduction to can be removed from indexing. Okay. And outline of. And outline of can be removed. The emperor's new clothes. The can be removed. So you can decide what are the words which can be truncated or removed so that the remaining words indexing can be prepared automatically in the shunting process. That is known as key letter in concept. Okay. I think I'll take 5 more minutes. But there are some problems with this keyword indexing. What are they? Because they are mostly based on the titles. The title is fanciful. The title is not expressing thought content, then you may not be able to prepare good index entries. And secondly, if it is automated, then you have to prepare list of stop words. You should tell the computer, if these words are occurring in the title, these words are not to be taken into consideration for the purpose of assigning subject index entry. So that instruction you should give it to computer by preparing a stop list. Fine. And since all the entries are arranged in alphabetical order, always there is a scattering of subject. Okay, that's very, very, very clearly understood here. Then comes citation indexing, the second type of derived indexing. So citation indexing means you might have heard about the Scopus, Web of Science, Indian Citation Index, Chinese Citation Index. In Web of Science, we have Science Citation Index, Social Science Citation Index, Arts and Humanities, Emerging Sources, Conference, Books, all those citation indexes are there. So citation index tells list what are the articles, on the other side, what are the articles cited by these articles. So citing article, cited article, source article, cited articles. Both these things are listed in the citation indices. Okay, very clear, I think. Fine. The last one is vocabulary control. I told you in cataloging, we cannot use any word just like that. You should be able to have a control over the terms that you are using in your library cataloging. For that purpose, you will have a well-structured and authorized list of master terms. This list of master terms that should be used by you in rendering your authors and rendering your subjects is called as vocabulary control. Why do we need vocabulary control? What is the problem? If I use my own natural language, what will happen? So in the natural language, we have got synonyms, quasi-synonyms, homonyms, acronyms, not clear terms are there. If you are using a natural language, that will create lot of problems for our users to come search and retrieve a document. The problem is that, see, if you're working in a cataloger and library, so you may not be use same terms for indexing a particular book. Though the book belongs, for example, 10 books are there. All the 10 books belong to same subject. But you will allot different keywords for same book when you're receiving it in different timings. Last year, you might have given some keywords. This time, you may give some other keywords. When you're going to retrieve the same book, you may give some other keywords. So these are the problems of natural language indexing. That is why we should have vocabulary control. How to have vocabulary control? By using 4 different methods. What is the vocabulary control? You should have a strong decision on the list of terms, list of words that I am going to use in my library cataloging process. Okay. What are the tools for that? Subject headings list, we discussed. Thesaurus, we discussed. Classification schemes, we discussed. Then subject authority file. Okay, that's the only one we should discuss. See, subject authority file is nothing but an authority file what each and every librarian may maintain in his or her library. So I'll have a notebook in my library. I will maintain a list of words. So I am going to use only these words in my library. Okay, this is what from this particular day I am using this particular word. Maybe after 5 years I can change it, I can revise it, I can modify it, I can delete it. I will keep on updating my local authority list. Okay. See, if you are having such a kind of standard list in your library, it will be very easy for you for cataloging. When you are preparing subject index entries, you can make use of your own local subject authority list to find out the keyword, so that you will be using same keyword to denote the same subject whenever you purchase it. One thing. Secondly, maintenance. So if you want to verify whether this is the latest keyword I am using or this is an old one, whether any revision is required, you can make use of your subject authority record. For example, you are having your all the records in manual system. You are going to convert everything into automated form. But when you are going to automate, you want to automate the entire library with the new keywords, new key terms. What you can do, in olden days, you might have used some other words. Now you will be using new words. How to create everything in an automatical way? Then you can depend on subject authority list to find out what is the word I used 10 years before, how the word has been changed over a period of time, and what is the new word I am using now for all these purposes. Then retrieval purpose. If a user comes to library and if a user happens to see your authority list, he'll be easily find out, oh, this is the word they are using in the library. If I want to search for this particular subject, I have to make use of the words available in subject authority list so that I will immediately get it. So that kind of help also will be extended by these authority files. Okay. You can ask a question. Sir, what is the difference between subject headings and authority files? In fact, both are same. Okay. Subject heading is the one which is maintained by the central agency like Library of Congress. So Library of Congress will prepare and maintain the subject headings. They will update it. They will modify. They will delete. They will do all those things. So what you can do is that you can follow Library of Congress subject headings, and whatever is not available in Library of Congress subject headings, okay, many of the local terms, many of the local words, many of the local content may not be available in Library of Congress. Okay, so whatever is not available, whatever is new, whatever is deleted, so those things can be recorded in your subject authority file. Okay, so subject authority file has got 2 levels. One is central level, another is local level. Central level is maintained by a higher agency like Library of Congress. At the local, in your library, you know what are the words you need in your library. So you can maintain a separate list of standardized terms that can be used for your library in addition to standardized terms of Library of Congress subject headings. Okay, fine. The last 2 slides are talking about Thesaurus and Thesaurus. Both are same. Thesaurus was initiated by Jean Aitchison. Thesaurus was initiated by Dr. Ganesh Bhattacharya. Both are emphasizing on same tool wherein we'll have a faceted classification followed by an alphabetical thesaurus instead of a normal alphabetical index. So faceted classification plus alphabetical thesaurus is equal to thesaurophacet and clasaurus. That is a foreign product, this Indian product. Fine. So that's end of this particular second part of the third part of the presentation. So maybe we can have 2 or 3 minutes of your time, so that if you want to ask any question on this derived indexing called title based indexing or citation indexing or subject authority file, you may post your queries, please. Yes, do you want to ask any question on these areas, please? എന്തെങ്കിലും സംശയം ഉണ്ടെങ്കിൽ ചോദിക്കണം കേട്ടോ. Yes, Nusrat, any doubts? Nusrat, Ramya Sajid, any doubt? Jijila, Vandana Menon, any doubt? Ebi Joseph, Sinju, Sumit, any question?
No, sir.
No question. Okay. Vandana, any question? No question. Okay.
Actually, I want to restart.
Ye-
I want to know this class once more. Then next class I will have. I will check, sir.
You want to ask something?
Sir, not now.
Oh,
Actually, I want to learn this class. After that, if any doubt, I will ask you, sir.
okay. Thank you. Who is that? Vandana, no?
Yes, sir.
Oh, thank you, Vandana. I think, dear students, the last 4 classes we are discussing about last 6 components of the chapter knowledge organization. I think that is the end of it.
Yes, sir.
And since we did not have enough time yesterday to discuss the questions, and since we don't have time to discuss questions today, yesterday's questions and today's questions we are going to discuss on May 3rd. Okay, so kindly join us on May 3rd for having a question answer session on yesterday's and today's topics. Okay.
Okay, sir.
If any other doubt is not there, then we can wind up the session. Any doubt? Shall we wind up otherwise? Okay, thank you so much for your patient listening. Let us meet again on 3rd May for the question answer session. Thank you so much. Amir, thank you so much, Amir.
Okay, thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Sujila. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Okay, thank you, Sinju.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Sujana Jayachandran. Thank you.